Hi everyone, I'm CA Surbi Punshi, Indirect Tax Expert at ClearTax, and today we all have gathered here to understand about the e-invoicing and also to understand how to even implement this e-invoicing into our business. But before we even start our session, I would like to understand, and we'll wait for like next 2-3 minutes for others to join. And maybe before that, I would just like to understand from all of you. So, are you able to hear my voice, or like my voice is clear or not? So, you can just comment on the chat box. Perfect. So, everyone is saying it's clear. So, we'll just wait for 2 minutes. Meanwhile, I will like to understand from all of you, how many of you actually understand about the basics of invoicing, like to whom this invoicing is applicable and to whom these transactions are covered. So that would be the first thing I would like to understand from you. So I have just run the poll, so you would be able to see that in your screen. So I would just like you to answer there either in yes or no if you understand about the applicability as well as the transactions which are covered in e-invoicing. If you know both of these things, you can say yes. But if you feel no, I don't understand at least the transaction wala part, but maybe I know about the e-invoicing applicability, so then you may say no. All right. So 54% of people are saying that they understand about the applicability part, and around 52%, I think this is now changing. So around 46 people are saying that they don't understand about the applicability part. So yes, so in this session, like in today's session, we will be covering about like to whom this e-invoicing is even applicable. We'll also consider like what are the transactions which are actually covered in this e-invoicing. We'll also understand what are the prerequisite, what are the things which you should take care before even implementing this e-invoicing. What would be the thing you would be needed for implementing this e-invoicing, and also about the ClearText, how we can actually help you in implementing the e-invoicing. So we will be covering all of that part. So we'll take this one by one. So, and I guess people have also joined us. So here we will be like starting our session with all of this. So first thing, the applicability part, the prerequisite part. We'll also understand about the e-invoicing schema. We'll also understand how to prepare this e-invoicing schema from your ERP, and we'll also cover the live Q&A session. So this is how we are going to take this forward. And also, just to clarify and also tell everyone, because people will ask about the PPT. So don't worry about the PPT. This PPT we will be sharing across all of you. So we will be mailing you this PPT so that you can even go through this PPT at the later stage. But here in this session, I would just suggest, and I will in fact request you to take the advantage of understanding, and rather than just focusing on the PPT, I would suggest rather like looking into this, focus on learning, focus on clarifying your queries. So that will be more important to you. Now, first important thing, because we are talking about e-invoicing in this particular session, the thing is when this e-invoicing is applicable, to whom this e-invoicing is applicable, right? So here we have already got the notification where the government is clearly saying this e-invoicing will be applicable for every taxee or a taxpayer whose turnover is greater than 50 crore, right? And this will be applicable from 1st April 2021. So if your total aggregate turnover exceed 50 crore, in that particular case, this will be applicable from 1st April 2021. So this is about the applicability part. We all know that this e-invoicing, it started from October month, October 2020, where the government first come up with the people or the taxpayer whose turnover was more than 500 crore. So first they have made them this applicability part where they have asked them to make this e-invoicing as yes. So if their turnover is more than 500 crore, then it was from 1st October 2020, then they reduced this limit to 100 crore. They said if your turnover is more than 100 crore, in that particular case, this invoicing is applicable to you from 1st Jan 2021, and everything was going smoothly. People were able to generate the IRN number. They were not facing much problem. That's the reason now government says, okay, now if your turnover it exceeds 50 crore rupees, in that particular case, this will be applicable to you from 1st April 2021. Now, in future, you will also see maybe after 3 months or maybe after 6 months, basis the result, basis the response they're going to get, they may even further reduce this limit of 50 crore to 5 crore. So that we can see maybe going forward. But as of now, if you ask me, if your turnover is more than 50 crore, in that particular case, your this invoicing will be applicable to you from 1st April 2020. So this was about the applicability part. But now the another question comes into our mind is, okay, we are talking about this 50 crore ka limit. How are we going to compute it? Is it at a PAN level or is it at a GST level? Do we even have to include the exempted supplies or should we just include taxable supply? So here I will be first asking you this question. You can just reply on the chat box and then I'm anyhow going to tell the final result. So by this, at least you will remember the limit. You will also understand about the concept and it could be little bit of a not a one-sided session. So I would request everyone to participate here and can actually reply on the chat box. Now I'm saying, so I just told one thing. If your aggregate turnover is more than 50 crore, in that particular case, this e-invoicing is applicable from 1st April 2021. My question to you, whether this aggregate turnover we have to compute at a PAN level or at a GSTN level. So you can reply on the chat box. I'm getting answer from Gaurav, Vijaya, then Shankar, Vabhav, Ragapriya, Bajrang, Deepak, Mehul, Suresh, Sharath, Ramaswamy, Sarang, Ashwini, Rakesh, Nilesh, Prashant. Everyone is saying at a PAN level. That is the right thing. So this aggregate turnover, when we talk about this, we have to compute at a PAN level and not at a GST level. So if I just take one simple example, let's say you have two branches. One branch is in Karnataka and your another branch, let's say, is in Delhi, right? And let's say your first branch, which is in Karnataka, their total turnover is 40 lakh rupees, just 40 lakh rupees, right? And when I look into your Delhi ka branch, there your turnover is 60 crore, right? Because you have just started your Karnataka branch, so the turnover was very less. Now, in this particular case, what will happen when we look into the aggregate turnover? So here your aggregate turnover is more than 50 crore. So this e-invoicing will be applicable to you and you are required to generate the IRN for both of your branches. It's not like the Karnataka branch has turnover less than 50 crore, so you're not going to generate the IRN for that branch. So you have to generate the IRN for the Karnataka branch as well as for your Delhi branch. So that is how you have to like compute this part. Now, second important question which will again come to our mind is, do we have to actually include this exempted supplies also while we are looking into aggregate turnover? So that is the second question. Now, I would like to understand from you what would be your reply here. Gaurav says yes, Vijay says yes, Upir, Mehul, Soma, Ravindra, Nithin, Sufyan, Nilesh, Hari, Shrikant, Sharik, Dinesh. So everyone is saying yes here, which is absolutely right. So while we compute this aggregate turnover, we have to take our exempted supplies, we have to take our taxable supply, we also have to include our export supplies. So all of these supplies has to be clubbed and then we have to look into whether it's more than 50 crore or not. So which means we have to actually take all the supplies. Now the other important thing, because we always get confused with the RCM kind of a thing. Now let's say I have my outward supplies which is liable to RCM. It's my outward supplies, right? It's my sale, but I am not liable to pay the taxes under the, I don't have to pay the taxes. In fact, my recipient, they are liable to pay the taxes under reverse charge. So whether this kind of a transaction will also be included while I'm computing for the aggregate turnover. I get the mix of answer. Shankar says no, Manoj says yes, Ubir says no, Rakesh says yes, Nitin says no, Vijaya says yes. Okay, okay. So here I guess the answer is little mixed. So see, whenever I talk about the outward supplies, whenever it's outward supplies which is liable to RCM, in this particular case, this is included in our aggregate turnover, right? But if I talk about inward supplies, which is liable to RCM, which is my purchases, but I am liable to pay the taxes under reverse charge, for example, legal services, the GT and all. So in that particular case, if it's an inward supplies which was liable to RCM, I don't have to include that in my aggregate turnover. But if it's an outward supplies which is liable to RCM, then I am required to add that while I'm computing my aggregate turnover. So hope this part is clear, right? And when it comes to taxes like IGST, CGST, HGST or cess, we don't have to include the taxes which we have charged under the GST while we are computing for the aggregate turnover. So this is we have to this is like how we compute. And I think Pawan and Nanda Kumar, they are asking just me to repeat that part. Okay, so I will just repeat this part. See, while we are computing for aggregate turnover, if it's my outward supplies which is liable to an RCM, which means it's my sale, but I don't have to pay the taxes to the government. In that particular case, if it's sale, though it is under reverse charge, still I have to include this transaction while I'm computing for the aggregate turnover. But when I talk about my purchases, which is inward supplies liable to RCM, for example, the legal services, the GTA services and all, I don't have to include that while I'm computing for my aggregate turnover. So अगर मैं रिपीट करती हूँ, अगर मेरी सेल है, अगर सेल चाहे वो मेरी रिवर्स चार्ज सेल हो या नॉर्मल सेल हो, मुझे अपने एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में उसको इंक्लूड करना है. लेकिन अगर वो मेरी परचेजेस है, ठीक है, परचेजेस चाहे मैं नॉर्मल परचेज कर रही हूँ, चाहे रिवर्स चार्ज के अंदर ही क्यों ना मुझे लायबिलिटी पे करनी पड़े, उसको मुझे अपने एग्रीगेट टर्नओवर में इंक्लूड नहीं करना. तो बहुत क्लियर है, अगर सेल है तभी हम इंक्लूड कर रहे हैं, परचेजेस तो नहीं करना. So that was about the aggregate turnover. Now, other important question which everyone is asking here, so that is about branch transfer, whether that has to be included or not. So I guess Manoj asked me about the branch transfer, and there are 2-3 more people who are asking about it. So see, when it comes to branch transfer, right? So whenever you are doing the branch transfer from one state within that particular state, let's say from one branch to your another branch within the same state where you have a single GSTN, because there could also be a situation that in the same state you have two GSTN, right? So now I'm talking about a case where within the same GSTN, you're transferring your goods or services from one state to, from one branch to another branch. Then in that particular case, this will not be included because this is not your supply. So whenever you're going to send this good from one branch to another branch or services from one branch to another branch, this you are going to be sending basis the delivery challan. So this will not be included. But if you are going to send the goods or services from your one state to the another state where you have a two different GSTNs, in that particular case, this is considered as your supply, and then this will be included in your aggregate turnover, right? So when we talk about the branch transfer, we have to see whether we are sending it from one state to another state or from one GSTN to another GSTN within the same pen. If that's the case, then yes, you have to include. But if it is under the same GSTN, you are sending from one branch to another branch, then we don't have to include that while we are computing for the aggregate turnover, right? Now, I guess there is another question which everyone is asking. And first, I would like to ask this particular question from you. What would be the financial year? When we look into the aggregate turnover, for which particular year do we have to even look into the aggregate turnover? So you can actually reply on the chat box, like what do you feel about it? Which year should we consider while we talk about the aggregate turnover? So here I'm getting little mixed answers. Deepak says 2021, Soma says 2021, Prapti says 2021, Rohit says 2021. People also are saying last year, some are saying current year, some are saying any of the financial years. So, okay. So this is little mix of answers, and I think that would be because when we looked into notification also, that was something which always happened. Now, if you ask me, but so here the government have actually issued a circular also where they have clarified it like when we are looking into this turnover, we have to look into any of this preceding 3 years, like from 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, and in fact now they will even add 2021 because from 1st April this is applicable, right? So here, if in any of this financial year, if your aggregate turnover it exceeds this 50 crore limit, in that particular case you are liable to this e-invoicing, which means this e-invoicing will be applicable to you, right? So this was about for which particular financial year we have to take it. So the answer comes over here is it could be any year starting from 2017, 18, 19, right? Now, if I, because I'm also getting other question, okay, some are also saying maximum. So it's not maximum. It's like you just have to look into it. If in even in one particular year that exceeded 50 crore, in that particular case, this e-invoicing will be applicable to you, right? So this was about the financial year in which it is even applicable. Now, let me just go to the other part, like. So here, just in case you even want to have a trial for the ClearText e-invoicing solution and you want to start generating your e-invoicing, you can actually get in touch. So you can even post in the chat here. So our team will get in touch with you. So other question which I'm even getting, because first we have to be clear about applicability of e-invoicing and then we will move towards the transactions which are covered, right? So here, when we talk about the applicability, I think people are also asking, is it as per like a books, or it is as per the GST turnover, or it is as per the income tax turnover, which turnover we should even include? See, when we talk about the aggregate turnover here, we are computing, this is basis the GST whatever, because sometimes what happened, the turnover as per the income tax and GST sometimes are different. So the reason could be some kind commission, right? Here maybe we are considering as a commission, but here there you are considering entire revenue as sale, right? All of that could be there. So in this particular case, whenever we are looking into turnover, we have to see from the GST angle. And if you have underreported something in your GST return, then always go for your books of account. So your books will always give you the correct picture. So here, that is how we have to compute the aggregate turnover. Now there were a lot of provisions because things were keeps on changing. There's Rule 48, which talks about manner of issuing invoice. Then there was 48 subsection 4, which is forms GST INV1. Then they talked about where it will be valid, how many copies you are required to do, and what would be the portal for generating this IRN and all. So these are the different notifications which came into picture where they talked about the applicability and all of that part. Now, because I was just talking about this e-invoicing is applicable in case your aggregate turnover is more than 50 crore. That is what I talked about, right? Now, the thing is, there are certain exception to this. When I'm saying exception, which means if you are into this business, in that particular case, this e-invoicing will not be applicable to you. If you are an insurance or a banking company or any financial institution, including the NBFC, then this is not included. If you are a good transport agency, which is a GTA, then it is not included. If you are a registered person supplying the passenger transportation services, again, this is not included. Again, if you are a registered person supplying the services by way of admission to an exhibition of cinematographic films in the multiplex services, then it is not included. Or if you are an SEZ unit, then also it is not included. So I will give you one simple example. If you are an entire GTA, right, your work is the transportation of goods, then this invoicing is not included, or we are saying this invoicing is not applicable to you, right? Now, if we talk about SEZ unit, because people will be confused, like SEZ unit, like how you are even considering that, right? So here, what we are saying, this aggregate turnover, as you do, you just compute it. Just check. Let's say you have 3 GSTNs. One GSTN is in SEZ unit, and other 2 GSTN is outside or in a DTA, which is a domestic tariff area. Now, in this particular case, you have to first look into aggregate turnover, assuming your turnover is more than 50 crore. So for this SEZ unit, you are not required to generate the IRN, but for rest of the 2 units, you are required to generate the IRN number. So this is how we have to look into this particular case, right? So other important thing, we'll also cover the transactions which are covered because that is also very important for us to understand. But before that, see, one important thing is what is this and why we even need it, for whom it is applicable, when it is applicable. Who we have already covered, who is simply if your turnover is greater than 50 crore rupees, then it is applicable to you, except for that list which we have talked about. When from 1st April 2021, if your turnover is more than 50 crore to 100 crore, because for others it is already above 100 crore, it is already applicable. When we talk about why even government need it, why we need to generate this iron and all of this thing. See here when we talk about why wala part, right? So why may the government want everything should be standardized? Because today when we look into the same information, we are sending at a different location, at different places. For example, today if I want to generate e-way bill, I'm going to send or I'm going to punch in the same information on the e-way bill portal to generate e-way bill. If I want to file GST1, then again I'm actually punching in the same information to file my GST1. Let's say tomorrow I want to submit certain bills to banks and all for maybe invoice discounting or something. I have to send the same information to the banks too, which means the same information is going to be utilized at a different locations or different places. So the government says, why can't we just standardize this? So that was our main reason. And also there were other reasons like fake invoices and all was coming into picture. So they want to avoid that part. So that were the other reasons, right? And also they want to make sure the input tax credit which other party is going to claim, that should also be seamless. Because what was happening, people were not filing their GST1 on time and the other party was not able to claim ITC. So the government says, why don't we make this clear at least the real time basis? You just upload the invoice, it will automatically be populated in your GST1 and then it will be populated in your recipient ka GST2 and that person can claim ITC. So that is what they want. So that was the reason they come up with this e-invoicing concept. Now, this is applicable to whom? Now we will talk about the transactions which are covered, right? But transaction may they have talked about B2B transaction and export transaction. So this e-invoicing you are required to generate only in respect of B2B transaction or export transaction. This is not in respect of your B2C or maybe bill of supplies, delivery challan. So this is not even applicable for such kind of transaction. And if we just talk about flow, how it has to be generated. So there is a seller. This seller, what they will do, they will create a JSON file. After they create a JSON file, they will just upload this to an IRP. After they push it to IRP, IRP will look into whether the information in this JSON are valid or not. If it feels like, okay, everything is valid, the customer GST which you have given is right, HSN and everything is right, then they will send you the IR number along with the QR code. So that is the information they will give you back and which you can always publish in your invoice and then give it to your customer. At the same time, this IRP will send this information to the GST portal where your GST1 will be auto-created, right? So your GST1 will be there. And if you're also sending the e-way bill related information, then this IRP. So let's say while you're sending this GST and you have also sent the e-way bill information, if you have sent only part A e-way bill information like transporter ID, then that will be created, which means your e-way bill party will be given to you. And if you are sending this YKL number and other information, then your part B information will also be given to you, which means entire e-way bill will be given to you at the same time, right? So this is how this entire flow will work. Obviously, there are other things also. Sometimes you will be like, okay, today I've generated iron. I didn't have the this transporter ID with me. So what? How would I even generate e-way bill? So here the government says you generate iron number, but e-way bill you won't be able to generate unless you have the iron against the B2B invoice. So you should have the B2B invoice. So you should have the iron number to generate the this e-way bill. So I guess there are two people who are asking me to repeat. So yeah, I will again repeat like the flow part. And after that, we will be covering the transactions which are covered, right? So here, how it is happening, there is a seller, right? Which means me. Let's say e-invoicing is applicable to me, right? Today, what I will do, I will generate a normal invoice as I do it today, which means maybe I'm using Tally, maybe I'm using Excel, maybe I'm using SAP, Oracle, whatever the ERP I'm using today, I will be using the same ERP. I will generate a normal invoice as I do it today, right? Once I have generated this invoice, I have to convert that into the JSON format. So there is a schema which government have already defined. Basis that I will be converting that information to a JSON format. Then I'm going to send this JSON to the NIC portal, which is our IRP, which is Invoice Registration Portal. So I will be sending this GSN to the IRP. This IRP, what they will do, they will just check across the centralized system whether the information given in this GSN are valid or not. Whether the customer GSTN was right, whether the HSN was right, all other validation, whether taxable value into tax rate is equal to tax amount or not, all of that validation they are going to look into. In case everything is fine, they will give you the IRA number and the QR code back into your system, right? So you are be getting this information which you can print in your invoice. After you print it, you can give it to the customer, right? At the same time, if you're also sending them the e-way bill party information, so in this GSN, if you have also sent the transporter ID, then you will also be getting the e-way bill party. If you're also sending vehicle number and other information, then you will also get the part B information along with the iron, which means e-way bill along with the iron. This information will be there with you, right? At the same time, they will also send this information to the GSTN portal where your GSTN1 will also be populated basis T plus 2 days, right? If today you have generated, after 2 days, you will be seeing that this information is also populated in your GSTN1. So this is how this flow will look like. This is how you are able to generate the IRA number. So here you don't have to worry because there are certain tools, like for example, if I talk about ClearTax, right? So ClearTax may, what we can do, we can directly integrate with your ERP. You are normally doing your business, there you just click on a button and you will get the item back into your system. So you don't have to do an offline tool, just copy paste the data there, generate a JSON out of it, upload to the government, get the item number, put the item number back into your ERP, then print it. So if you want to go away with all of this flow, you can just use softwares like ClearText, where you just have to simply integrate it. So again, there are 2-3 options with you. If you are using Tally, we already have a Tally connector with us. You can use the Tally connector. So here you have to just, in the Tally itself, you have to just use our connector there. You will generate a normal invoice as you do it today. Click on a button and you will get the item number along with the e-way bill if you have also saved e-way bill detail there. Right? So you will be getting e-way bill along with the item in your system itself. You don't have to go anywhere. But at the same time, in future, you want to look into dashboards, reports, analytics, and all, you can always come to ClearText portal and can look into all such information. So we will be sharing QR code, and also if you want to print it, you can even print it there itself. You don't have to go anywhere. Right? Similarly, if you are using SAP and Oracle or other kind of ERP, we have the integrations available, so you can directly integrate with your ERPs, and you will be getting the item number as a response along with the QR code, and you can even print in your own format. It's not like you have to use a predefined format. So you can have your own format to generate the item number, right? So to have the print. So this was about the generation part, like how to even generate that. So again, there are different other ways also. Sometimes you will like, okay, I can't do the integration. There are a lot of things which happens. So in that particular case also, we support the customized template. You just give us the template, you upload it over here. We'll just map it for the first time. And then you can keep on uploading and you will get the iron in response. So it's on you what exactly you want to use, because sometimes it happens. You are in certain branches which cannot make a lot of changes in their ERPs and all. So you can even use that particular thing for generating the item number. Now, because we just talked about the flow part, like how exactly it will work, like how it is moving from one place to another and then to the third place, and how your entire system is getting integrated. Now I will just talk about the transactions or the documents which are covered, because this is also one of the important thing, that what are the transactions in the document which are covered. So the here government says here we have to look into our tax invoice, the credit debit note against the same, and the so these are the transactions which are covered. Hello. Yeah, so these are the documents which are covered. And if we talk about bill of supply or a delivery challan, these are not covered. So you're not required to generate the iron against the bill of supply or a delivery challan. When we talk about transaction, it's a B2B, B2G or export transaction. So these are covered. Other transactions are not covered. So let me just ask you one simple question here. Let's say you are into B2C business and you are supplying to an unregistered person, whether you would be required to generate the iron in this case or not. So you can actually reply on the chat box. So I'm getting answer as no from many people. So most of the people are saying no. Shubham says no. Ganpati, Mahalakshmi, Narahari, Shankar, everyone is saying no. And great. So everyone is saying no, which is absolutely right. That in respect of this B2C transaction, you are not required to generate the item, which means e-invoicing is not applicable to you, right? So now I guess people are also talking about dynamic QR code. So I will also tell you a little about that dynamic QR code. What exactly is this? So the government has also issued another notification which talks about having the dynamic QR code, which is the payment QR code. So they say if your turnover is more than 500 crore, in that particular case, you are required to have the dynamic QR code in your invoice, where the customer can just scan and will be able to see the payment detail along with the invoice number, invoice date. So they have in fact issued a circular where they have actually specified what are the things which should be there in the dynamic QR code. So that is one thing, and which is different, totally different from e-invoicing. So in e-invoicing, you have to send this JSON to the IRP, and then you get the QR code and the QR code information along with the IDEN number. But when we talk about dynamic QR code, you're not sending information to anyone. It's just like you have to create a dynamic QR code, which is a payment QR code, which you need to print in your invoice so that your customer can just scan it and can make the payment. So that is what the this dynamic QR code, the B2C QR code and the B2B QR code. When we talk about B2B QR code is an e-invoicing thing, but when we talk about dynamic QR code, it's a payment kind of a thing, right? So these two are the different things. So we should never be confused between these two things because these are totally different. Now let me just ask one another question. Let's say you are supplying exempted goods, right? And you are supplying this exempted good to a registered person. Whether you are required to generate the item against the same or not. Manish says yes. Prashant says yes. Nikunj says yes. Krishna, Rakesh, Sneha, Ravindra, Venkateshwar. Everyone is saying yes. Okay. So most of the people are saying yes, and there were 2-3 people who are saying no. So see here, whenever I talked about, right, when I talked about the document which are covered, I talked about the tax invoice. That is a document which is actually covered here, right? I was saying clearly the bill of supply is not covered. And whenever I talk about exempt supplies, for exempt supply, I'm required to issue a bill of supply. So if for exempt supply I'm required to issue a bill of supplies, then in that particular case, I'm not required to generate the IDA number. But let's think of another case. Let's say I issued a single invoice, but there I have mentioned both the taxable as well as exempt supplies. In that particular case, what will happen? Whether I will be required to generate the item against the same or not. So I'm saying, I will just repeat my question. I have issued a single invoice on which I have mentioned both the taxable as well as exempt supplies. So in this particular case, whether I'm required to generate the item or not. Great. I guess many people are saying as yes, and which is absolutely right. In respect of whenever you are supplying, whenever you are supplying in a single invoice which have both the taxable and the exempt supplies, you are required to generate the item against the same. So in respect of exempt supplies, you can mention the tax rate as 0%. So that is how you can actually generate the item number. Now let me ask you another question. I have just sent the goods to a job worker, basis the delivery challan, because I know that I will be getting this goods returned to me. In this particular case, whether I'm required to generate the item or not. Vijaya says no, Deepak says no, Bhupen says no, Stima says no, Siddesh says no. Yeah, great. So everyone is saying no, which is perfectly right. Whenever, because I clearly mentioned, against a delivery challan, I am not required to generate the item number. So if I'm sending the goods to a job worker, because there I'm going to send this good basis the delivery challan, in this particular case, I am not required to generate the item number, right? Now, what about my export? If I am doing some export, it could be with payment or it could be against LUT also, whether I'm required to generate the item against my export or not. So most of the people are saying yes. Rita, Hitesh, Sharad, Ravi, Hirachan, Sharik, Vijaya, Pooja, Nilesh, everybody is saying yes, which is absolutely right, because whenever we talk about, we clearly said in respect of B2B and export transaction, we are required to generate the IRN number. So in this particular case, we are required to generate the IRN number. And I guess one like I was actually looking into the chat and I could see one people, and in fact many people are asking, can we generate the IRN against a backdated invoice? So the answer over here is, as of now, yes, you can do that. So even let's say there's an invoice, let's say it is applicable to me invoicing, and invoice date was 1st Feb, and today, let's say on 12th March, I want to generate the IRN against the same. I can do that. So there is no restriction on the government portal. But the important thing which we should understand over here is that when we issue this invoice to a final customer, so this invoice will not be even a valid invoice unless that has an IRN number. If you don't get this invoice registered with an IRP, this will be an invalid invoice, which means, let's say for the first Fab dated invoice, you are generating the IRN now on 12th of March. So in this particular case, even if you have given this invoice to your customer, it will not be valid till 11th. So that will be actually an invalid invoice, and your customer will not be able to claim ITC, because as per the rules which government have defined, they clearly say if the e-invoicing was applicable to you and you have not generated either, in that particular case, this particular invoice is not a valid invoice. And if it is not a valid invoice, then in respect of customer, as per section 16, we also know one of the condition to claim ITC was that you should have a valid invoice, and if it is not valid, then obviously that person won't be able to claim the ITC. That's the reason that we should always generate this IRN on time, right? So this we have covered about the transitions in the document. Just to be very clear that you understand everything about this e-invoicing, at least you understand what are the transition covered, to whom it is even applicable. I would just like to ask two more questions. What if you have an outward supplies which is liable to RCM? Whether you are required to generate the IRN against the same or not? Here I'm getting mix of answer. Gaurav says no, Rohan says yes, Rahul says yes, Rohit says yes, Prapti says yes, Rajni says no. Okay, JL Shoshi says yes. Okay, so here I am getting mix of answer. So see, whenever I talk about my outward supplies, even if it is under reverse charge, right? Still, I am liable to create the IRN against the same. So if it's my B2B transaction, which is covered under the reverse charge, and it's my outward supply, then I am liable to generate the IRN number. Let me ask you another second question, right? Now, if it's your inward supplies, it's an inward supplies which was liable to RCM, whether you are required to generate the IRN against the same or not. Great, I'm getting most of the answers as no. Dinesh says no, Ramakant, Rajesh, everyone is saying no. Perfect. So everyone is saying no, which is absolutely right also. If it's your inward supplies which is liable to RCM, in that particular case, you are not required to generate the IRN number, right? So this is about the transaction which was covered, and also the applicability part that we have covered till now. Now the question is, because I was again saying, when we send the JSON to the IRP, in that particular case, I get the IRN number and the QR code. But how this IRN is even created, right? That is one important thing which we all should understand. So this IRN, this is the combination of your taxpayer GST, the financial year, the document type, and the invoice number. If you combine this four things, then your IRN is created. So, but this IRN you can see here in the screen also. This is little alphanumeric number. It's a unique identifier invoice, which we cannot read it, but systems can, because it's in an encrypted form. So this is how it looks like. So this is an IRN number. So here, even if you don't put the IRN number in the invoice, but if you just have a QR code in the invoice, then also it's a sufficient thing, because when you scan the QR code, you will automatically be able to see the IRN number also. So that is the clarification which government have already given, right? Now, other thing is, what are the ways to generate the IRN number? How I can actually generate this IRN number? So there are different ways. One is your offline tool based. So there is a government ka offline tool. You can use that. You can directly integrate with your ERP. As I gave you an example, you can even integrate this ClearText. So you can even directly integrate with NIC, but there they have kept a limit. So for the smaller companies, when I'm talking about now the limit which they have decreased, you cannot directly integrate, but you can always integrate with the GSPs and all. So like ClearText, so here ASP, GSP, you can integrate with them so that you can get the IDEN number in your system itself. There again, when we talk about GSP, it could be API based, it could be SFTP based. So you can even directly integrate the API, or you may even use SFTP because sometimes we are not able to make more changes to our systems and all. So you can even use the SFT based integration. So this is how you can actually generate the IDEN number. But we always advise that you should directly integrate with the system. Otherwise, it will be a lot of manual effort. So to avoid all of that manual effort, you should always use the direct integration. So here, one important thing when we just talk about, so integration, because I was talking about this. So here, as I told you, right, we have to generate e-way bill, we have to also look into GST1, we also have to look into IDEN number. Sometimes the problem is how would even we segregate the data, because as I told you, for B2B document I can always generate the IDEN number against if I have a credit debit note against the B2B document, I can generate IDEN number, right? But when I talk about e-way bill is not only applicable for the B2B document or a credit debit note, it is also applicable in respect of your delivery challans or B2C transaction. When I talk about GST1, GST1 also require nil rated exempted non-GST supplies for transaction, but it does not require delivery channel information. But it also requires your B2C ka summary and all. So different portals are asking for different information, right? How would I segregate all this information into my system? So here, again, when we talk about ClearText, we have come up with a way where you can ingest, like you can just integrate with your ERP, send all the information. Will automatically segregate for what kind of a document IDEN is required, for what kind of document e-way bill is required, and what document should be the part of your GST1. So we will be doing all of that thing for you. So for you, it's just a single system where you just send the dump and you will be getting the IDEN number or the e-way bill, or you automatically GST1, and from GST1 your 3B is also done. And at the same time, because you are so for your vendors, they are also going to upload certain documents, so your 2A or 2B will also be prepared. And since we have already sent the information, purchases will also be ingested, and you will be able to reconcile and make 3B also. So which means all of this can be done in the single platform. So you don't have to run against one or a second or a third platform, right? So here, when we just talk about, I think Rajni is saying if we can explain this again, yes, sure, I will do that. See, what I was talking about, I just talked about, see, e-invoicing may, we require this IDEN against B2B or a credit note or a debit note document, but we don't require IDEN against the B2C document. I don't require IDEN against the delivery challan. I don't require it for a B2C large, right? But when I just talk about B2C, when I talk about e-way bill, right? E-way bill is again, first we look into value also if it is more than 50,000 or not, but people want to be on the safer side and usually they generate for every documents, right? So you are generating e-way bill against B2B, you are generating e-way bill against B2C, delivery challan, and also even you are sending within the same state. You generate a delivery challan against which you generate IDEN. You also generate e-way bill against import of goods and all such kind of transaction. There you don't need IDEN number. But when I just talk about GSTR1, GSTR1 mein you will be requiring only B2B credit debit note export transaction and also your B2C ka summary or the nil exempted non-GST goods ka summary, right? Or maybe advanced receipt, advanced adjustments. So all of the documents are required there, which means different platform require different kind of document. Now question comes in, should I actually segregate the entire data into my ERP to go with all of this document? So here we say you don't have to worry about it. You just send, you do the integration first time, send all this information to our portal. We'll automatically segregate for you that what are the documents required for the IDEN purpose, what documents required for e-way bill purpose, what documents are required for the GSTR1 purpose. So all of that can be done, right? So this is how we can actually look into. Right now, the other thing is, because we said also talked about, we required QR code, right? So we are going to get the QR code. So here QR code, what information does it have? So when you scan that, you will get the GSTN of the supplier, GSTN of the recipient, the invoice number, as you have mentioned, the date of generation, the invoice value, number of line item, the HSN code, and the item number. So these are the information which are required while we talk about the QR code. Right. So if we talk about the GSTF1, the schema and all, how we can just define the schema. So I will just talk about the schema. So these are the information. There are certain mandatory information, certain optional information. So you have to just send mandatory, you anyhow have to send it, but whatever optional, basis your business, you have to make a choice if you want to send or not. For example, if I'm into a pharma company, right? There I have to batch, I have to give the batch number. Why I have to give the batch number? Because it is a requirement from the pharma company. So you have to always give batch number, expiry date. It's a mandatory requirement, but not for the purpose of sending this or sending this information in the schema, right? There this information is not required. So here there are certain mandatory and certain the optional information. So there are first main category and subcategory. So you will see that under main category, if they are mandatory, under that there could be certain subcategories which may be mandatory, may be optional. So if main heading is mandatory, under whatever is mandatory, you have to send it for sure. Under main mandatory heading, if certain headings are optional, the subsection, you may leave it. You don't have to even send that, right? Then when we go to the optional headings ke under you will see certain mandatory headings. So there, what exactly that means? You will be like, okay, main headings are optional, then why even I have to send that information? So I will give you one small example. Let's say you issue a credit note, right? When you issue a credit note, earlier there was a requirement you also have to give the invoice reference number and invoice reference date. Now that requirement is no more, like that is not actually required, right? So if it is not required, now it's your choice. If you want to give that information, you can always give, that's under optional heading. But if you're giving original invoice number, then it's becoming mandatory for you to even give the original invoice date. So that is how that has to be read, right? So this is how we have to look into the mandatory, optional, and the original, the optional information. Now, when we talk about what are the benefits, so the main benefits is obviously you have to like government wants that the tax, because there was a lot of tax evasion which was happening and people were taking the ITC which was basis the fake invoice and all. So they don't want to have all of that thing, and that's the reason to curb the tax evasion they have come up with this. Then also to enhance the efficiency of the tax administration process so that everything can be seamless. The data flows seamlessly from one place to another place. It could be an ease of compliance. There could be automated updation of your GST1, then 2A, also the part of e-way bill. And there's an elimination in the process of compilation of the invoice, because first you are like sending information here, then every month you have to compile and then generate GST1. So they are saying, okay, you don't have to do that. And also you can just do the ITC verification on real-time basis. So that was the main benefit of e-invoicing. Now, when we just talk about what are the possible challenges. So first thing is you have system, right? First thing, your systems are not ready. We are already on 12th March, and from 1st April, you have to generate the IRN number. So you have to make your system ready. You have to make sure whatever the mandatory requirements, what are the mandatory fields, whether you are even capturing that fields or not. So that would be the first thing. If you are capturing, are you able to create JSON or not? So there you may use third type of a vendor. All of that thing is required. So that would be the first thing. Then you also have to complete your entire integration work, right? You have to even test this, whether all the kind of transaction which is applicable to you are you able to even generate IRN against the same or not? Because sometimes people get confused. I am sending the free goods also. How you are going to incorporate that or not, right? So all of that needs to be taken care of. You have to make sure the system is not down while you are connecting to the IRP. Then other important thing, sometimes what happened, I have actually made a mistake. Now if I have made the mistake, there's a time limit for cancellation. So within 24 hours, I can actually cancel the IRN number. So there's a time limit for cancellation. So within 24 hours, I have to cancel it. But let's say I forgot to cancel. What to do? Right? There you have to raise a credit note to nullify the transaction and then create another IRN number. But here you would need all reconciliations. You have to be very sure about all of this thing, like how you're going to look into all such transactions, right? There should be a IT infrastructure, the sound IT infrastructure, proper internet availability. You also have to look into your vendors. So it's not only on you. Sometimes it's also important whether it is applicable to your vendor or not. Because if it is applicable to your vendor, whether they are actually putting the QR code and the item on the invoice or not. Because if they are not, then you are not able to claim the ITC because it's not a valid invoice, right? So it is also important to understand whether your vendor are complying or not when it comes to e-invoicing. And then there are always restriction on a backdated entry while finalization of the accounts. You should be able to scan the QR code whenever you're getting this, right? Now, other thing is how that business can be trained. Important thing, training. First, you have to learn yourself what this e-invoicing is, whether it is applicable to me or not, how to create JSN file, all of this thing. Who is generating a eBay bill? What would be the change in their process? Because today maybe they are generating directly on the portal. You have to see that okay, they won't be able to generate eBay bill unless they have the IDEN number. So who is generating IDEN here? So all of this team members should be well informed about it. They should be well trained. So first important part is training. So you have to give the training to all of the team members. Then second thing, all this mandatory information which is required for the purpose of e-invoicing, whether that is captured in your ERPs or not. So you have to make sure that has been captured. Then third part is integration. So whether it has been integrated correctly or not, whether you are able to do it or not. Then you have to even test it, whether proper iron you are able to generate or not. So that is something which you have to be ready about, right? Along with this, you also have to make sure your vendors, even if it is applicable to your vendors, whether you are getting the valid invoice or not. So all of this thing you will be needing, right? So this is how your businesses can prepare to implement the invoicing. Right, so this is the important thing which you should understand. And also you should understand about the schema so that you don't get stuck. So other than this, we can also talk about there's an implication of this invoicing on your GSTR 1 as well as your GSTR 3B. When I talk about implication on your GSTR 1, because I told you that this is going to be auto-populated in your GSTR 1, right? But here, as I also told you, this will be auto-populated only in T+2 basis, right? So here you have to make sure if you're doing certain backdated entries, so while you're filing GSTR 1, you should be very sure that invoices are properly uploaded or not. If not, you have to first reconcile it. So here we have, anyhow, we have one tool where we just download the data which has been auto-populated by the government. You can ingest your sales data and then reconcile and then look into the differences and accordingly correct that differences and then upload on the government portal and file the return, right? Because the problem could be if you have filed the wrong return, this will actually hamper because now you have to do amendments and then maybe sometimes you can't even do the amendments and all. All of this thing needs to be taken care of. So that's the reason we always suggest download the data, because someday what happens, iron was generated. This was uploaded on the GST1 also, but I had to cancel it. I have cancelled in the ERP, but I was not able to cancel because the time limit was expired. Right? In this particular case, what you should do, you have to file amendment or you should delete that document from the GST1 directly, right? And what you will do here in this case, what we say, you download your GST1, upload your sales, reconcile it, basis that whatever the matched is okay, you can mark as uploaded, you don't have to upload it again, right? But wherever there is a mismatch in value, upload as per books. Where there is missing in GST1, upload that document, and if iron is not generated, also generate the iron against the same. If there is certain thing which is missing in your sales, but it was present in your GST1, delete that document from your GST1, right? So this is how you can actually do it. So I will just repeat this part, like what exactly I mean by this part. I think people are asking about that. If I just talk about, right, what I told, government is already auto-populating your GST1, but sometimes we feel there are certain discrepancies, or maybe there was certain document which was cancelled in my ERP, but that is still there in GST1. राइट तो मैंने क्या कहा, मैंने कहा कि गवर्नमेंट ने GST1 जो है वो ऑटो पॉपुलेट कर दिया है, वहां पे डॉक्यूमेंट्स ऑलरेडी आ रहे हैं, पर वहां वो डॉक्यूमेंट भी आ रहे हैं जो मैंने कैंसिल कर दिया. अब वो जो कैंसिल कर दिया वो आइडली वहां मेरे को नहीं चाहिए, राइट? अब हुआ क्या, जब मैं कैंसिल कह रही हूँ, हो सकता है कि मैंने आयरन कैंसिल नहीं किया बट मेरी ERP से डिलीट कर दिया है, वहां पे कैंसिल कर दिया क्योंकि 24 आवर्स लैप्स हो गए थे तो मैं कैंसिल नहीं कर पाई. ठीक है, बहुत बार ऐसा होता है मैंने कुछ चेंज कर दिया था, इनवॉइस नंबर गलती से कुछ गलत चला गया, ऐसा भी हो सकता है, राइट? समटाइम मैंने वैल्यू में कुछ गड़बड़ कर दी. समटाइम क्या होता है, कुछ कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स है जिसमें मैंने आयरन बनाना ही भूल गई, तो वो वहां पे पॉपुलेट ही नहीं हुआ. right? So also there could be certain documents where you may see ki there are other problems. Like when I'm saying other problems, there could be certain documents where there's a mismatch, right? There were certain documents where I could see how the discrepancies were there. So what we are saying, you just download your entire GST1, upload your books, reconcile between these two. Whatever is match, you don't have to upload it again because that is already present. There is iron and everything detail already present, right? But wherever there is a mismatch in value, upload as per your books of account. Wherever there is a missing in GST1, which means this is not even uploaded in GST1, generate an iron against that particular document and upload on GST1. Wherever there is a missing in sales register, then delete that document from your GST1 so that your GST1 will be exactly as per your books of account, and then only you go ahead and file your return. So that is how you can look into all of this thing. Then obviously there is a implication of e-invoicing and e-way bill system. While I'm saying e-way bill system because your Part A you may generate it, right? So Part A you can generate if you're sending the transporter ID, right? And you can even generate Part A if you will, Part B if you're sending vehicle detail also. But sometimes the another problem which comes in, today I didn't have my transporter ID, I don't have the vehicle detail, I don't know in which transport I'm going to send this, even I'm going to send this goods. If that's the problem, then what you can do over here, you can, so especially in this scenario, what you can do, you can generate the iron now, and you can again use the same iron number to generate the e-way bill at the later stage, maybe tomorrow or whenever you're sending this code. So that is possible. So you can, but the important thing, you cannot generate e-way bill without the iron in respect of B2B or export transactions, right? For B2C, you can always do, but in respect of B2B and export transaction, you cannot generate the iron without the so you cannot generate e-way bill without the item number, right? So that is how this can be impacted. Other than this, this is one of the sample like how your this e-invoicing look like. And in case you want to actually take a demo for ClearText tool, then you can always you can actually fill in this form which has been circulated on the chat so that we can help you out and we can reach out to you. So this is like there are a lot of customers which we already have, and we are already integrating with a lot of ERP. So if you have any of the ERP, we can directly integrate with your ERP. We have a lot of features, like we have smart data validations, we have error corrections, we have bulk uploading. We also have a notification alerts, we have user access control, we have a unified compliance software. So these are the features which we have. You can always fill in this form so that we can actually show the live demo with your own data, right? So these are certain reconciliation which will be used, especially when you are doing the integration and when you are using the iron number. We also have a e-invoicing tally connector, which will be very quick, and you will be able, you are ready with this generation of iron number. We also have a mobile app where you can even track it, like what are the documents which are left. If you want to even communicate with the vendors, you can always do that. You want to scan QR code, you can do that. You can look into sales analytics report. You can even look into alerts and the notification. And these are certain features over NIC. So anyhow, I'm going to share this PPT with everyone. And these are certain features when we talk about Tally. And you can always fill in the form here. And these are the certain FAQ which we have already like listed here, which are the main queries which has been asked by people. So I will just pause here, and maybe with the next 10 minutes, I will be taking queries. So if you can just like post your query on the chat box so that I can cover that. One question I'm getting from JL Joshi, who is saying how to connect ERP system in e-invoicing portal. So JL Joshi, I will request you to fill in the form which has been circulated on the chat box so that our team can reach out to you and we can actually help you and even show you the live demo. Other question I'm getting from Anita, who is asking how to create QR code and IRN number. So Anita, here you just have to send this JSON to the IRP. Once you send this information to the IRP, in response, you will get the QR code along with the IRN number. So if you're already using ClearText portal, then you don't have to worry about this because we will be taking care of all such things. Other question I'm getting from Prapti, who is asking, should B2C, okay, I think the question, okay. So other question I was getting from Prapti is asking, should B2C transaction be included in aggregate turnover? Yeah, Prapti, you have to include the B2C transaction also while you are computing the aggregate turnover. Other question I'm getting from Himanshu is asking, we have a ERP based at Singapore TMS software. Can we integrate the same? Yeah, Himanshu, you can always do that. So we have a different kind of a customization here. So you can fill in this form so that our team can reach out to you and accordingly can help you out with this. One question I'm getting from Sunil, who is asking, is it applicable for liquor business or not? So, Sunil, when we talk about the liquor business, right, it is a non-GST transaction where you raise a bill of supply. And if you are raising a bill of supply, the iron is not required in respect of the bill of supply. Other question I'm getting from Sanjay, who's asking, we are making invoice with the help of Excel, then how QR code will be inserted? So Sanjay, we also support the customized template. You can directly ingest your Excel file and we will be sending you the IRN number, and from our tool itself, you can generate the, or in fact, you can print your invoice with the QR code and the IRN number. Other question I'm getting from Rakesh, who is asking how we can check the applicability of e-invoicing of our vendors. So Rakesh, there is one portal which is e-invoicing1.gov.in. You can log in there, and there they actually give you. So when you enter the GSTN, they will give you whether this e-invoicing is applicable to them or not. So from there, you can actually check the applicability. One question I'm getting from Nitin, whether QR code is mandatory to print. Yes, QR code is mandatory to print. Other question I'm getting from Manish, who's asking how to check our vendor is covered for invoicing. I think that question I have already covered. You can check on the invoicing portal where you can just put in the GSTN and you would know. In fact, you can even use ClearText where you can just bulk upload and we will be telling you the invoicing applicability for your vendors. One question I'm getting from Varun, who is asking, what is the time limit to generate IRN for an invoice? So Varun, when we talk about the time limit, right? So as of now, the government have not kept any restriction on the generation of IRN number. So there is no validation there. You can anytime generate the IRN number. But the important point is, because when you issue the invoice to a customer, that invoice will not be valid unless you unless you got the IRN number. So for an invoice to be valid, you have to generate the IRN number. Other question I'm getting from Ravi, who's asking, should turnover limit is including GST or not? So GST amount should not be included while you're computing for turnover. Other questions from Sharik, who is asking, can we raise invoice for 1st April on 5th April? Yeah, Sharik, you can do that because as of now, there is no validation on the government portal. I think this also answers Shubham question, who is asking, can we generate invoicing backdated? Yes, you can do that. There is no restriction. It's just like you have to be very sure if you are issuing or giving that invoice to your customer or not. Because for a customer, this invoice will not be valid unless it has an IRN number or the QR code. Right? So for them to be a valid, or if they want to actually claim ITC, this will not be a valid invoice. The questions from Raghu is asking, invoicing to be generated from e-waybill site. No, Raghu, e-invoicing, there's a IRP, which if you look into site, it's e-invoicing1.gst.gov.in. Using this site, you can actually generate the IRN number. Another question is from Sneha Ashish, who is asking, can we generate IRN from Tally? Yes, you can. You can generate the IRN from Tally. So here ClearText also provide you a Tally connector. So you can just use that and you can actually directly generate the IRN from the Tally. Other questions from Govind, who's asking, is the invoicing applicable to a stockbroker? So Govind, we have to first look into it. What is the turnover? Basis turnover, the applicability will be defined because that is not in that exception which was given. So in this particular case, yes, invoicing will be applicable to them too. Other question I'm getting from Sandeep, who is asking, if I have two branch in Bangalore and Hyderabad, if I raise invoice from Bangalore to Hyderabad, whether that invoice will be considered for turnover. Yes, so I'm considering this, both the branches have a separate GSTN number. If they have a separate GSTN number and if you're issuing the invoice from one branch to another, this has to be included while you're considering your turnover. Other question I'm getting from Pankaj, who is asking, from Oracle ERP, XML file gets generated, and while sending invoice for validation and the IRN generation, is this XML file format sufficient or file has to be in Excel format only? So there can be different format. It depends on like what exactly you're using. If you're using ClearText, we support all such kind of format, and you can actually directly integrate and generate the IRN number. But if you ask me if you want to directly upload it, then you have to use a JSON format. So for uploading on government portal, the JSON format is required. Other question I got from Rohan, who is asking if FAB 2021 credit note and uploaded on invoicing portal on March, then you said we have to report in March. Then what about document reporting in G1 table 13 for FAB? Because credit note issued in FAB but uploaded on this. So here, see Rohan, maybe you are generating iron at the later stage. We have to look into invoice date. What was the invoice date? So here the invoice date or credit note date was FAB. So this needs to be reported in your GST1 for the month of Feb itself and not in the month of March. Though you are generating iron in the month of March, but still this credit note pertains to Feb. So you should actually report this in your GST1 for the month of Feb 2021. The question I think Anita is saying if we can take one session on live demo. Yeah, we will do that. We will also be taking a live session on the other sessions we are going to have. So we will be giving a live demo for the IRP generation. Other question is from Subrata, who is asking, in case of export to Nepal currency in iron, how to show in invoicing? See, you can always show. So the government, in fact, asks for the currency, whatever we report in INR only. It's just like in case you want to even give that foreign currency value, you can always give, but that's again an optional field. So even if you are sending to Nepal and it is an INR, you can still generate the iron against the same. The questions from Prashant, who is asking for site for e-invoicing. It is e-invoicing1.gst.gov.in. That is the site for e-invoicing portal. Other questions from Shuhas, who is asking if previous month invoice is generated next month and credit note can be taken in the next month. So here, Suhas, if previous month invoice is generated in the next month, credit note. So here it is not exactly like this. See, when I told you about this, right? So you are creating a credit note just to nullify the transaction, right? So here you can actually raise a credit note in the same month itself. Other questions from Varun, who is asking what is the time limit? I think we have already covered this. Then other question I'm getting from Chandrakant, who is asking, as we have to generate invoicing debit note but iron portal, we have to show debit or credit note. So there they also ask for document type. So there you can give credit note or debit note. So you will be able to generate the iron against the same. Other questions from Akash, who is asking whether iron is required for e-bill. Yes, for B2B transaction and the export transaction, this iron will be required for generating the e-bill. One question I'm getting from Mitesh, who's asking iron is for one by one invoice or bulk invoice. You can do both the thing. You want to do one by one, you can do that. If you want to generate on bulk, you can even do that. So both are possible. Other is from Ramu, is asking how to integrate with the Tally. So Ramu, I would suggest you to fill in the form so that we can help you with this and we can give you the live demo for that. Other questions from Harish, who's asking invoicing not enabled for 2021. Yeah, so there we have to request the government and they will be enabling for us. Yeah, so I guess we have covered most of the queries, but still if you feel that there were certain queries which have been left and I was not able to answer, so in that particular case, I would suggest you to please reach out to us. So you can always reach out to us at the e-invoicing@cleartext.in. So that is our mail ID. So you can just reach out to us in case still some of the queries has been unanswered, because I could see that there are a lot of queries and I guess most of the queries have already been covered. But still, if there is something, you can always reach out to us. Okay, I just, so this is our mail ID. It's einv@cleartext.in. So you can actually drop the mail here. We will be happy to answer your all of the query. And also regarding the PPT, we will be sharing the PPT to everyone. So you can even send our mail ID. So send your mail ID so that we can send this PPT to you. Along with this, I know that there were certain queries which I was not able to answer because I could see there are a lot many queries still pending. But still, you can actually mail us to on the same mail ID. We will be reach out. We will be actually answering you over the mail. So that is how we can actually do that. And I guess there were 2, 3 more queries in respect of e-commerce and all. So see, e-invoicing, it is right now not applicable in case you're supplying the goods through an e-commerce platform, unless your turnover is more than the limit which we have already discussed. If it is more than that, then yes, it is applicable. Otherwise, it is not. So other question I'm getting from Rohan, who is asking, is DSC required for e-invoicing or not? So see, Rohan, when we talk about this DSC wala part, if it is applicable in some other act, right? If you have to actually put this DSC under some other act, then yes, it will be applicable. Otherwise, specifically for the purpose of iron, this is not required. So this is how we, when we just talk about this DSC, that is how we have to look into it. Great. So I think I was able to cover most of the queries. With this, we can actually close the session. And also, like soon, we will also be covering or taking another session where we can actually give you the live demo for our entire e-invoicing tool. So thank you very much.